everyone, it is Friday, December 4. Hope the week has gone well for you. We are moving through the series of Advent using a devotional called Watching for the Light, readings for Advent and for Christmas. And this book contains many different articles from a wide variety of writers. Yesterday we listened to the writing of a Catholic Jesuit from the 1800s. They're kind of all over the place. And so we continue on. Today actually has two shorter entries from two different authors. The first is called Concerning the Light from Isaac Pennington. What is the darkness which comprehendeth not the light? Is it not man in the unregenerate state? Ye were darkness, saith the apostle, speaking concerning them as they had been in that state. Now it pleases the Lord that in this darkness his pure light should shine, to gather man out of the darkness. For unless light should shine on a man in his dark state, he could never be gathered out of it. But he that is turned to the light and follows it cannot abide in the dark, but comes into that which is gathered and preserved the mind out of it. But of what nature is this light, which shines in the dark state of humanity? It is of a living nature. It is a light which flows from life. It is a light which has life in it. It is the life of our Lord Jesus Christ, of who the eternal Word, which is the light of humanity. And he who comes to the true understanding may thereby distinguish it from all other lights whatsoever. There is a vast difference between it and the reason and understanding of a human. For the natural human with his or her understanding is dead, but this is living and powerfully operating in humanity as it finds entrance and as his mind is joined to it. The person that is dead indeed does not know it, but the one who is alive unto God feels the virtue of it. This light is above all gathered knowledge, and above all descriptions whatsoever, for it is the very nature of him from whom it flows. A person may get a notion from this into his mind, which he may retain the knowledge of, but his knowledge will quickly die. But he that dwells in the light dwells in that which never dies. Our second reading comes from Madeleine L'Ange, and it's called A Sky Full of Children. I walked out of the deck of my cottage, looking up at the great river of the Milky Way flowing across the sky. A sliver of a moon hangs in the southwest, with the evening star gently in the curve. Evening of this day, evening of my own life. I look at the stars and wonder, how old is the universe? All kinds of estimates have been made, and as far as we can tell, not one is accurate. All we know is that once upon a time, or rather once before time, Christ called everything into being in a great breath of creativity. Waters, land, green growing things, birds and beasts, and finally human creatures. The beginning, the Genesis, not in ordinary earth days. The Bible makes it quite clear that God's time is different from our time. 1,000 years for us is no more than a blink of an eye to God. But in God's good time, the universe came into being, opening up from a tiny flower of nothingness to great clouds of hydrogen gas and swirling galaxies. In God's good time came solar systems and planets, and ultimately this planet on which I stand on this autumn evening as the earth makes its graceful dance around the sun. It takes one earth day, one earth night, to make a full turn, part of the intricate pattern of the universe, and God called it good, very good. A sky full of God's children, each galaxy, each star, each living creature, every particle and subatomic particle of creation, we are all children of the Maker. From a subatomic particle with a lifespan of a few seconds to a galaxy with a lifespan of billions of years, to us human creatures somewhere in the middle in size and age, We are made in God's image, male and female, and we are, as Christ promised us, God's children by adoption and grace. Children of God, made in God's image. How? Genesis gives no explanations, but we do know instinctively that it is not a physical image. God's explanation is to send Jesus, the incarnate one, God infleshed. Don't try to explain the incarnation to me. It's further from being explainable than the furthest star in the furthest galaxy. It is love, God's limitless love, infleshing that love into the form of a human being, Jesus the Christ, fully human and fully divine. Was there a moment, known only to God, when all the stars held their breath, when the galaxies paused in their dance for a fraction of a second, and the Word, who had called it all into being, went with all his love into the womb of a young girl, and the universe started to breathe again, and the ancient harmonies resumed their song, and the angels clapped their hands for joy. Power, greater power than we can imagine, abandoned as the Word knew the powerlessness of the unborn child, still unformed, taking up almost no space in the great ocean of amniotic fluid, unseeing, unhearing, and unknowing, slowly growing as any human embryo grows, arms and legs and a head, eyes, mouth, nose, slowly swimming into life until the ocean of the womb is no longer large enough and it's time for birth. Christ, the second person of the Trinity, Christ, the maker of the universe, or perhaps many universes, willingly and lovingly leaving all that power and coming to this poor, sin-filled planet to live with us for a few years to show us what we ought to be and could be. Christ came to us as Jesus of Nazareth, wholly human, wholly divine, to show us what it means to be made in the image of God. Jesus, as Paul reminds us, was the firstborn of many brethren. I stand on the deck of my cottage, looking at the sky full of God's children, and know that I am one of them. I hope these readings connected with you in some way. It's been good to be with you throughout the course of this week, considering this season, this first week of Advent that we are now in the midst of coming to the end of. The second week coming soon. I hope you sense God's blessing this day throughout the weekend. Take care, and we will see you again soon.